think of a story, any story, and predict what kind of coverage it will get in the massive majority of UK newspapers if it is not sympathetic to the interests of wealth, people who told you to vote for Brexit, or people who use Trump derangement syndrome as a pejorative. And then you'll get an idea of just how desiccated the media landscape is and why I increasingly find myself doing a little skip through the hall of my house when the New World has landed on my doormat of a morning. That and Private Eye, probably the most welcome things to drop through my letterbox on a regular basis. And James is, as I say, the political editor of that newspaper. It used to be the New European, if you're wondering why you haven't heard of it before. You have now. And James has a habit of coming up with things that make me go, what? And he's done it again. I'm just going to let you tell me the story, James, if that's all right with you.
Yeah, I'm kind of surprised by this one. I wish I could say I'd done some amazing journalism or some great investigation here. I really do. I love to hype myself up. But I was going to do a bit of analysis on the whole BBC row and this dossier. And of course, the whole centre of the row is whether Panorama misquoted Donald Trump. And they took a couple of little things he said in an hour-long speech and put them together. And the allegation is that they misleadingly suggested that Trump incited the January the 6th riots, which, of course, he incited. You know, congressional reports found this. Courts have found this. There are reams of evidence for this. But I went and read the quote as it was in this dossier produced by this external advisor, Michael Prescott. And the quote just sort of looked a little bit odd to me because I've read this speech and I just sort of thought, hey, I'll just look up where this is. And when I looked in the actual speech, the transcript's online. Anyone could have done this at any time, including the BBC.
I thought I had. This is why I should put my hands up and express a degree of embarrassment here, because I thought I had done it, and yet I missed what you're about to describe.
Yeah, and so Michael Prescott has him saying, we're going to walk down to the Capitol and I'll be with you. I know that everyone here will soon be marching to the Capitol building to peacefully and patriotically make your voices heard. Now, Trump does say all of those words, but not in those order. And in between, he says things like, you'll never take back our country with weakness. You have to show strength and you have to be strong. We have come to demand that Congress do the right thing. Now, those all sound like threats to me. Those all sound quite important things. But even if they weren't, this whole complaint is about altering quotes. And even in print, there are ways you show you've altered a quote. You put in an ellipsis, you break it up. This was said as exactly what Trump said. And so this bloody dossier that supposedly says that Panorama has done this mortal sin against broadcasting, that Trump's suing for $1 billion, has done something at least as bad, and I think arguably worse. And it took me to notice it. I actually...
Just for, hang on a minute, you've won a Pulitzer Prize in the past. Stop it with the self-deprecation, James Paul. You've won a Pulitzer Prize in the past. I'm less surprised than you are. But, I mean, to be clear, this Prescott character has abridged a quote. He has edited a quote and not made it clear while attacking the BBC for editing quotes and not making it clear.
Yeah, and in a dossier that has brought down the two most senior executives of the BBC, it started an international incident. And potentially, let's not forget, the BBC is publicly funded. Any money it has to spend defending itself against Trump is money out of our pockets as licence fee payers. Now, I want the BBC to stand up for itself. I'll spend that. But if all of this is based off a misleading edit itself, I think that's a scandal.
I know that you are backstage somewhere exciting at the moment, which accounts for the chat. No, you don't have to apologise. I'm just apologising to the listeners for the chatter in the background. It's not your fault. And as you say, I mean, this line here: "You'll never take back our country with weakness. You have to show strength. You have to be strong. We demand that Congress do the right thing." Is at the very least challenging to, if not contradictory of, the following line, reportedly inserted by speechwriters, that he knows everyone will soon be marching over to the Capitol building to peacefully and patriotically make your voices heard. I introduced you by suggesting that some stuff that is clearly newsworthy and in the public interest mysteriously doesn't make its way into most organs in the media ecosphere in this country at the moment. Are you expecting this to get picked up by, for example, the Daily Daily Telegraph?
I mean, there's so far been a bit of silence. It seems that selectively editing a quote is very, very serious in some cases and a lot less serious in others. I mean, can you imagine another scenario where a very senior BBC advisor who's been hyped up misleadingly edits something in this way? It's in plain sight for a week, and now it's been picked up and reported. Pretty much crickets around there.
This is insane. Absolutely insane.
The stuff in the mid strong is so striking.
It changes the meaning.
It changes the meaning.
It changes the meaning of the quote in the dossier in the same way that the edit of the Panorama programme arguably changed the meaning of what Donald Trump was saying in the context of whether or not he incited the insurrection. Of course, it doesn't change the meaning, but it just distills down elements, and the argument was it glosses over or doesn't properly address the bit about peacefully and patriotically. But the bloke who wrote the dossier has done something extremely similar to outside
yes, it feels
eyes.
like Michael Prescott understands that sometimes you abridge a quote to make your point.
More powerful.
When he does it, and yet thinks it's outrageous when... And this is the editorial standards guy. This is the person who's supposedly enforcing this. And he did it invisibly. And so there really does seem to be a mismatch in standards here, doesn't there?
Well, there does indeed. I also read repeatedly that he'd been political editor of the Sunday Times for 10 years, which doesn't seem to stack up either.
Yes, it seemed an interesting claim because I was wondering what it was because, I mean, I've covered politics quite a long time now and he didn't really ring much of a bell for me.
4 years. 4 years, I think, was certainly what I could say. But I don't know where that claim came from. It may have been made by other people. Again, something that you'd expect to be on the front page of tomorrow's Daily Telegraph.